Hi, George Bathurst here, and today I'd like to talk about different types of secure by design. Have you been confused by different sources of secure by design or different types? Have you tried to Google secure by design and seen multiple different explanations? Have you been told you've got to comply with secure by design and you're confused about what you should do? Are you struggling to get started? Well, listen in. The purpose of this video is to talk about 4 different types of secure by design and their similarities and differences, and which one might be applied to you, or which ones may apply to you. So there's been a huge amount of confusion in the industry about what secure by design means. I was involved with the UK MOD's secure by design when we started it. Now, I didn't choose the name, and in retrospect I think I would have argued quite hard for a different type of name to avoid exactly this type of confusion. So what are the 4 types of secure by design? I've listed 4 here. Secured by design, which is something we'll talk about first in a second. Security by design, which is often also called secure by design, used interchangeably, and that applies to the UK, USA and the EU. Then we have the UK Ministry of Defence secure by design. And finally, 4th, we have the UK Cabinet Office secure by design. And actually that's no longer in the UK Cabinet Office, that's been moved to the UK Department for Science and Technology, DSIT. So let's talk about the first type of secure by design, secured by design. This is probably the oldest one, which is why I'm starting with it first. So here you see on this screen, this is actually a UK police initiative, secured by design. They say reducing crime by good design. Now, they're not talking about cybersecurity here, they're talking about fence designs. And you can see a little clue here about what sort of secure by design is. They've got a RABA approved professional development, so Royal Institute of British Architects. So really what this is all about is designing housing estates, industrial locations, etc. in a way that fosters good design. It's about not leaving temptation in the way, having the right sort of fences, the right sort of CCTV. I was involved in this many years ago. I used to do physical security design, and we often use secured by design principles to make sure that you had the right things in the right places and you fostered a good environment which discouraged crime. It really comes out of the US initiative in New York, actually, where getting control of the little things quite often means that bigger crimes don't happen. So that is what secured by design is. It's all about physical security. Now, perhaps we should have left it there and not had any other types of secured by design. But actually, secured by design still has one principle in common with all the other types of secured by design, because it's all about designing in good security rather than continually trying to fix it after the fact. And that's why the police sponsor this type of secured by design, because they don't want to be running around housing estates after drug dealers all the time. If those housing estates could be better designed and less suitable for dealing drugs, then actually there might be less of a problem in the first place. And that principle actually carries over into the cybersecurity world that we talk about next. So let's talk now about secure by design US version. This is what I call security by design, because actually the Americans use security by design and secure by design interchangeably. Well, if we look at this website here, this is actually the America's Cyber Defense Agency. Notice it's spelled with an S, not a C, because we're now in America. And it's the Cyber Security and Infrastructure Security Agency. So that's an official website of the United States government. Now, they have an initiative called Secure by Design, saying it's time to build cybersecurity into the design and manufacture of technology products. Now, the word product there is important because what they're talking about is consumer devices, the Internet of Things, cars, things that you might buy, washing machines or whatever it is that you're buying, as well as computers and PCs. Now, I'm calling this security by design because actually in America, they tend to use security by design and secure by design interchangeably. So for example, if you go to Microsoft's website and look for secure by design, you'll find them calling it security by design. That might be because they're worried about being sued if they call their software secure by design. maybe somebody will infer that it's secure, and that's not what it means. It means that security is built in from the beginning, and it's all about technology design. It's about doing things like implementing Rust, which is a secure programming language, or things like secure by default, which is a subset of secure by design or security by design. That means turning off default passwords so that when you buy a new router for your home, for example, it doesn't come with a password of 0000 or admin1 or something like that. So passwords are not easily guessable, and the things that you don't need are turned off. So for example, sharing on your home network is turned off as well. So security by design really means turning off all those backdoors and ways into your devices that a hacker might use. And it's about making you as a consumer safer from hackers who might be using the devices in your home or in your car to cause you harm or snoop on you. So that is what secure by design in America means. Now, there are UK versions of that as well. So rather confusingly, the UK government also calls it secure by design, and I'll come on to the other two types of secure by design the UK government talks about as well. In the UK, that's called the Consumer Connectable Product Security Regime. It's enforced by the Security and Telecommunications Act 2022, and that came into force on the 29th of April 2024. And again, just like the American version of secure by design, that is the UK government's version of exactly the same thing. The government is working to protect UK citizens and businesses from threats posed by purely secured consumer connectable products. Again, products, and they clarify that meaning Internet of Things or smart devices, things like your home thermostat that's connected to the internet. And as you can see here, this is no longer part of the Cabinet Office, and it's now the Department for Science, Innovation and Technology. Now, a third version of this security by design is actually called security by design, and this is the European Commission version. So in continental Europe, in the EU, you have security by design, and it refers to the prime principles found in any standard and practice throughout the whole of IT, emphasizes the protection of valuable assets, securing them safely within the boundaries of an organization. Security by design is a new industry term for a range of security practices built in around one fundamental idea, that security should be built into a product by design instead of being added on later. So again, this type of security by design is all product focused. It's about how those things. So again, there are multiple European directives that enforce that across the European Union and anybody who sells in to the European Union. So that again is security by design. Let's now talk about secure by design at a UK government organisational level. Now, the first one I'm going to talk about is MOD secure by design. And here you see the website, and they talk about design for security from the start. Now, you see this is very similar to security by design at the EU level or secure by design in the Internet of Things thing, but actually this is now talking more about government programmes and deliverables and organisational change as well. And they talk about secure from the start, which is very similar, getting the basics right, and particularly managing risk, so assessing and managing your risk. Now, this is the new website for the Ministry of Defence Secure by Design, part of the Defence Service Manual. But what's missing from here actually is a pithy description of what secure by design is. Originally, secure by design in the MOD was defined as improving capabilities through continual risk management. So you see that still carried over in these elements here, but it's not actually defined as succinctly as that. So instead, they've got secure from the start, which is implied by throughout. And they also have getting the basics right, which is, again, background work for doing risk management, and assessing and managing your risks. So behind those are fundamental functions. So we have a foundation and an in-service assessment questionnaires. So that is what MOD secure by design is. It's more than design for security from the start. It's about applying continual risk management actually from the start through life and right through the very end as well. And it addresses a couple of misconceptions that had become embedded in the MOD. First of all, that if you had a security certificate, you were all right. So MOD Defence had a concept of accreditation where they literally gave a paper certificate to somebody to say their system was cyber secure. Secure by design is all about abolishing that paper certificate, but more so the mindset that goes behind it and saying, actually, just because you've got a certificate, it doesn't mean you're secure. You need to continually work and make sure you do the work behind that. Now, I'll come on in a moment to what that work is, but let's talk a little bit more about this assessment. So the big mistake we see here is actually that people focus on assessing themselves rather than doing that work. Now, the other thing, just before we go on to UK government secure by design, is secure by design is all about abolishing accreditation. The whole concept that somebody else is going to take responsibility for your system, tell you that it's okay. Actually, in cybersecurity, we know from bitter experience that it's never okay. It's just how much effort you're prepared to put into defending it and how much you value the security of your systems versus other outputs of that system, whether it's be a gun or a system for managing personnel. So MOD are all about getting rid of accreditation and external accreditation. And by external, I mean external to the project. So some function within MOD used to tell other projects that they were okay. This disempowered those projects and caused them to actually have worse security outcomes. So secure by design is all about putting responsibility back on the projects. Now that's slightly unfortunate because UK Cabinet Office, as now DCIT, have taken secure by design and said this is a really great initiative. Let's roll this out across government. So they have another website here, Government Security, now part of the, what still says here, Central Digital and Data Office, but it's now, as I said, been moved to the DCIT. But their secure by design is all about reintroducing centralized controls. And at the Cabinet Office level or at the departmental level, they now want to say, if you don't follow these principles, you won't get funding. And so if your project is big enough for us to notice and you haven't followed secure by design, we will deny you funding. That unfortunately will create a bottleneck in government, or it will create the same problem that the MOD used to have, where risk is perceived as being owned by the centre and not being owned by those projects. Now, to be fair to them, they do recognise this problem and they are clear that responsibility lies down there. But unfortunately, some of these principles can be a little bit confusing. So, for example, giving you principles. Here you have a whole number of principles here. Now, first thing about these principles is to remember they're not really principles. So defend in depth is a type of security by design, in effect. Quite why defense in depth is so much more important than, say, diversity in your thing, that's not particularly clear. And rather confusingly, these principles don't match the principles in the MOD, secure by design. And the thing really to get around that is to remember neither of them are principles. They're just things that the people designing these have thought that's important. So, for example, source secure technology projects, products. Now, that might be important for particular projects. It might not be important for others. And managing third-party security risks is very much a fashionable subject at the moment. So that's made it there as number 2. The proper way to understand this is actually, if you adopt a risk-driven approach, which for some reason is principle 3 here, all the other things will go here. So the only real principle in secure by design is actually adopting a risk-driven approach. And that differs very much from the other secure by designs approach, where in the UU or the CISA, they're being legislative and they're saying you must do these particular controls, you must not have default passwords. Adopting a risk-driven approach actually throws those rules out a little bit and says you identify what your risks are and you make sure that you have appropriate controls in to adjust those. Now, that might still include the same controls, but the onus of responsibility sits with the projects. So that's given you a little brief overview of some of the types of secure by design. The 4 types: secured by design, the UK Police; security by design, which is all about product, Internet of Things security; and the 2 flavours of secure by design, Ministry of Defence and Pan government. So if you're somebody who's been told you've got to implement this, maybe you're selling Internet of Things type products to government or to the UK Defence Department. How do you make sure you've got 3 different types of secure by design to comply with? If you're in the NHS, you have to comply with the NCSE, the National Cyber Security Centre's cyber assessment framework. How do you do that and comply with security by design for products, which your thing is a product? So this could be really onerous. You've potentially got 4 different types of secure by design that you've got to comply with, all having different principles or different random things that you've got to do. And quite often, sometimes those can be in conflict. So we advise you take a secure by design principle-based approach. Now this is actually in line with the NCSE advice also. Get the principles right and you'll find that all these different secure by design approaches collapse into one simple process. Now we work with our clients adopting a practical preparation process. This actually sets you up for success. It creates the platform for which all your compliance can deal with, not just secure by design, not just all the different types of secure by design, but actually enables you to make your system more secure. And this involves the big mistake that we see quite often with people complying with secure by design. What is that big mistake? Well, it's people obsess on complying with the self-assessments or the tick boxes there. Now, that's a really anti-pattern. Why is that? It's because ticking the boxes is hard. It's hard work. It creates huge amounts of paperwork. And there's a temptation often not to do it properly, or even just to convince yourself wishfully that you've complied with these things rather than really understanding it. And so sometimes a tick box approach can drive the opposite of what you want, make you less secure. So actually, by taking this practical preparation process, you can do that fundamental work, and then you start to understand better what's important, and it sets you up for success complying with all these various and partly conflicting standards without creating 4 times the amount of work that you need to do. If you're interested in finding out how to do a practical preparation process, please join one of our free webinars, lunchtime learning sessions, where you can learn how to get started with secure by design of whatever flavour.